Welcome to episode 5 of the Trade Rewind. On this episode, we discuss how a coach's inquiry for a backup quarterback led into a league spanning web of trade downs, trade ups, reaches, and robberies. A chain reaction which led to many of the biggest names from the 2010s never putting on the jersey of the teams that originally held their draft rights. Hope you enjoy. It's the 2006 NFL Draft. That's the main player in this trade that we're talking about. So we'll start there. I don't know if you remember anything about the 2006 NFL Draft. There's 3 quarterbacks. None of them are the first overall pick, but there's 3 very good quarterbacks who all end up going in the top 11. We got Vince Young out of Texas, Matt Leinart out of USC. Do you know who the last one is out of Vanderbilt?
So we have Vince Young, Matt Leinart. Thinking 2006. Can you give me the team he gets drafted to?
He goes to the Broncos.
This might not help because he's probably going to be traded. Thinking 2006 to the Broncos.
I'll say he's one of those guys who you should remember him being on the Broncos. It's not like he wasn't just on the Broncos for, one season where he didn't play. Like he had a short, but he had a career on the Broncos.
He actually was pretty good for a few years. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm not going to come up with it. Who is it?
Jay Cutler.
Oh, that's not who.
You were on the wrong track.
Yeah, I was on the wrong track.
Okay, well, we're talking about a lot of people today, but it all starts off with Jay Cutler. So he is coming into the draft. I was shocked by this. 23 bench press reps. Blew me away.
Strong boy.
Quarterback, 23. I was thinking the other week, Jared Allen got like 10. McCaffrey got 10, I think. It's like, I don't know how he was doing 23, but good for him. 4.77 40. So we know this guy's a legend.
It's also pretty good.
And it's a little bit weird because at the time the Broncos have Jake Plummer, and he's been pretty solid. He went 9-2 his first season with the Broncos. He went 10-6 his next season, and then he goes 13-3 the season right before they drafted Cutler.
Wow.
So you're like, why on earth?
What round did they draft Cutler?
11th overall.
11th overall with a 13-3 returning quarterback.
Yeah. So why are they doing that? Because Plummer got destroyed in the AFC Championship game. The Steelers ran through him. 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, both of them lost. Steelers go on to beat the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, but the Broncos just, I guess, decided.
Very controversial QB sneak in that Super Bowl.
Yeah. The Broncos, I guess they decided they need a new quarterback, and Cutler even says that he has no idea he's going to get drafted by the Broncos. He says, yeah, I found out 15 seconds before everyone else. He gets the call. That's probably the commissioner's walking up there as he's getting the call.
So he wasn't injured. He just stunk in the playoff game.
Yeah.
And that was enough to 13-3. Wow.
And I don't think they necessarily thought they were going to start Cutler right away. I think he was viewed as more of a project. But he has a really good preseason, and he climbs the depth chart his rookie season. And the Broncos are 7-4, and Mike Shanahan's like, we're done with Plummer. And puts Cutler in 7-4. And he says, yeah, it'll give our team the best chance to win now. So Cutler goes 2-3. They miss the playoffs. He looks good on film. And the Broncos just, over the next 2 seasons, before he gets traded, the Broncos are not great. They go 7-9 the next season. And then the season after that, his third and final season on the Broncos, they start 8-5 and then lose their next 3 games and miss the playoffs. So Shanahan, he drafted and he developed Cutler, and now he's done. He's fired.
Wow. What's interesting, by the way, Shanahan is kind of known, Mike Shanahan, father of Kyle Shanahan, is kind of known as he's made some really good calls about quarterbacks. There's 2 of them I can think of. Number 1 is Brock Purdy. So Brock Purdy gets drafted to Kyle Shanahan, and Trey Lance is the guy. Trey Lance wasn't first round pick, and Brock Purdy was Mr. whatever, irrelevant, last pick of the draft.
Yeah.
And Mike Shanahan came to some of the preseason stuff and training camp, and I'm pretty sure it's Mike Shanahan. I need to fact check it, but I'm pretty sure it's him. He washes a little bit and says, wow, you got a big time quarterback. And they're like, oh yeah, Trey Lance. I'm like, nope. It's like Brock Purdy.
That's awesome.
And he also, similar story with RG3 and Kirk Cousins on Washington, where Mike Shanahan
Right. Pit
was
stop.
in the locker room and said that Kirk Cousins is the future, not RG3. So he has a history of seeing these diamonds in the rough. So very interesting.
That's interesting. I mean, he also has a history of winning Super Bowls with John Elway
Right.
way back when. So it was interesting to me that they fire Shanahan. He's been with the team for forever, and they're just like, "All right, you're done." I mean, they'd been terrible. They hadn't had a winning season in 10 seasons, and he was one of those guys like Belichick vibes where he controlled, like, because he'd been there for so long, he controlled everything.
Right.
So he's de facto GM, whatever. They're like, "All right, we're done with this guy." And who do they hire in the 2009 offseason to take his place? Any ideas? It's the first stint for someone.
First in for GM.
No,
Oh,
no,
for
no.
coach.
A coach's first stint. None of them have gone well, and he's currently an offensive coordinator.
Um, First stint. He's still currently coaching.
Yeah.
Uh,
He was 32 years old at the time in 2009.
he's now, and you said now he's an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Josh McDaniels.
Wow.
Josh McDaniels goes to the Broncos, which I don't think I knew about.
You know what? He's actually doing well right now, right? Great career as an offensive coordinator, could never be a good head coach.
Yeah, he was I think God created him to be the
To
New
run
England
offense.
Patriots
Yes.
offensive coordinator and nothing else.
I mean, he was there all those years with Brady.
Yeah. McDaniels is the Patriots offensive coordinator. Then he goes to the Broncos. Then he gets fired from the Broncos, which we'll get to. He goes back to the Patriots. Then, as we remember a couple years ago, he got the offer from the Raiders, and now he's back on the Patriots.
Every couple of years, he's like, maybe this time I'll be a good head coach. And then he comes right back, crawling back.
And I think honestly, at this point, I'm sure he's getting paid. You know, he's got to be one of the highest paid offensive coordinators. Like, hopefully he'll realize and just leave it at being that.
I'm sure it's hard. But like, you want to be able to like be a good head coach.
I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe you learn to accept it at some point. Anyways, McDaniels comes in, and I cannot tell you how much of a disaster. So maybe I'm a little jaded on him and his ability to be a head coach because this guy was such a disaster. He decides right away, he's like, I don't know if Cutler is the right quarterback. And he secretly starts trying to get Matt Castle from the Patriots.
His guy.
His guy, he wants to acquire Matt Castle via trade. I guess he's like, the Patriots don't need him anymore. Let's get Matt Castle. They don't tell Cutler, and Cutler finds out, and him and his team are like, what the hell? Like, why would you not tell us that you're looking for a trade? He's basically like, the trust has completely broken down here. There's nothing you can do. And McDaniels is like scrambling at this point. He's like, no, no, no. Like, because Cutler is still viewed at this point, which is interesting because he's gone 17-20. For some reason, Cutler is viewed as a high-end premier quarterback. He's viewed as very good. Everyone thinks he's a great prospect. Part of it is that his record is 13-1 when opponents score 21 or less. His last season with Denver, he threw 4,500 yards. So everyone's like, all right, this guy's got it. He just is on a terrible team. I was thinking kind of like Matthew Stafford. Everyone, when he got traded to the Rams, was like, all right, like, we know this guy's going to be good. He just hasn't been in a good situation yet.
Right. I mean, but Stafford was already a Hall of Famer, even. Like, not already, but he was close to. Like, he already had thousands of passing yards, and he had 12 seasons of, like, putting up crazy numbers. He never won. His Lions stunk.
Yeah, they snuck into the playoffs a couple times, but he hadn't done anything. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, McDaniels cannot, like, Cutler's team is just like, we're done. We don't want to deal with this. Like, this guy sucks. It kind of makes sense, I guess. Mike Shanahan drafted him. He's been with him the whole time. This new guy comes in from day one, is like, I'm trying to get rid of
a new guy. Yeah.
And the owner is like, you got to fix this, Josh. And they try conference calls, this, that, whatever. Can't get in touch with him. Then there's a little bit of some mudslinging at the end. The Broncos are like, yeah, ultimately we decided to trade him because we just couldn't get in touch with him. He's been ignoring our calls for 10 days. Cutler's like, that's not true. Whatever. Back and forth. There was a massive breakdown, and there was nothing they could do. They had to trade him. He had no interest in coming back. All right. So now we're getting to the meat and potatoes of this trade, of this episode, really. The original trade, and then there's like branches and branches coming off of it. So I assume you can tell me where he went.
It goes to Chicago.
Goes to Chicago. The initial trade, the Bears get Jay Cutler and a 2009 fifth-round pick, and the Broncos get Kyle Orton, who is the current Bears starter. 2009 first-round
He's the
pick.
one I was thinking of originally when you're like Broncos quarterback, Kyle Orton.
That's who
my
popped
head.
in.
Yeah.
So they get Kyle Orton, a 2009 first-round pick, which is 18th overall. That's the draft that's happening like imminently. A 2009 third-round pick, which is 84th overall, and a 2010 first-round pick. So 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for Jay Cutler and a fifth-round pick.
Okay.
Solid haul. All right. At the time, I think the reaction from people is just like, this had to happen. There's a crazy breakdown. Like, there had to be a trade. And it seems pretty fair, right? 2 first-round picks. This guy hasn't really proven himself. We think he's good. We get 2 first-round picks for a quarterback. He's still young.
Besides Kyle Orton, it was just picks. Kyle Orton, 2 first-rounders.
Kyle Orton's 2 first-rounders and a third-rounder.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's basically like everyone's just like, all right, whatever. This trade had to happen. This seems like a fair trade. There's an interesting article that ESPN did. They interview Urlacher, who's obviously the best players or one of the best players on the Bears at the time. And he's like, I really like Orton. He's coming off a 9-5 season. I don't know. I hope he has success there, but everyone's saying we got an upgrade.
Doesn't sound like Urlacher was too happy.
Urlacher doesn't sound too happy. I don't know. He kind of saves it at the end, but he doesn't seem like the most ecstatic for it. Whatever. It's mixed reactions at the end of the day. This is the most psychotic thing that I cannot understand. We're going into the 2009 draft. The Bears obviously gave up their first-round pick. 18th overall is the Bears pick. The Broncos are drafting 12th overall, and
That's their own pick.
that's their own pick. They use that on Noshawn Marino.
Great pick.
Yeah, he was solid. He's not really relevant to the story. He wasn't part of the trade. Robert Ayers is who they draft.
Great defensive end.
Yeah, they use that with the Bears pick to draft him. Okay. So
Okay.
that's what those turn into. And now is where it gets really weird. And back to Josh McDaniels being a complete disaster. He falls in love with a cornerback named Alfonso Smith. Any ring any bells? Alfonso Smith?
Wait, repeat that. Who falls in love with Alfonso Smith?
Josh McDaniels,
Who's now the Broncos
the Broncos head coach.
falls in love with a linebacker,
Not a linebacker, a cornerback.
a corner named Alfonso Smith. I've never heard of him.
Alfonso Smith. So the reason you've never heard of him is probably because he was off the Broncos after one season and out of the league 2 years later.
Wow.
And he decides, back to, all-in moves, Brett Favre style trade, he decides, you know what? Why don't I give up my 2010 first-round pick? Because I have 2 now, because the Bears gave me 1. I'll give up my 2010 first-round pick for the 37th overall pick, a second-round pick, in 2009. So he takes his 2010 first and trades it for a 2009 second.
Wow.
And then, which is just like mind-boggling to think about. Why would you trade a first-round pick for a second-round pick?
Well, if you think you're going to be really good, like if we're going to have the 30th pick in the first round next year, then I'm okay moving up 7 picks.
Right.
But you weren't that good the year before.
To get your guy, you got to get Alfonso Smith.
Alfonso Smith.
So that's like, just
Wacky.
Josh McDaniels, disaster, whatever. So that's the first part. Then that third-round pick, which was also in 2009, they end up flipping that. They flip it to the Steelers. They move up with the Steelers, and they give them Mike Wallace, and then they draft Richard Quinn. I don't think he was in the league for very long either. Whatever. That third-round pick turns into Mike Wallace. Okay. We're going to move on to the next season. We can talk a little bit about, it's interesting, the fifth-round pick that the Bears got turned into Johnny Knox. Do you know who that is? He was a wide receiver. He only lasted 3 seasons. He was a 5th-round pick, 140th overall. He actually had 3 great seasons. He was a 5th-round pick, 500 yards as a rookie, 900 yards as a sophomore, and then 700 yards his next season. But in that next season, he has a career-ending injury. Devastating.
It is interesting. I was taking a peek at just that 2009 draft class. So you got some good names. Stafford, number 1 overall. Number 5 pick from your New York Jets, my New York Jets, QB. Do you remember who?
Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez.
They traded for him.
Michael Crabtree is in that draft. Brian Cushing in the first round. Jeremy Maclin. Pettigrew, who was a great tight end with on the Lions as well. Percy Harvin is in that draft. Clay Matthews. A lot of good players in that first round.
Yeah, and
Kenny Britt.
they took no shot. Kenny Britt is not one of the good players. Let's be clear.
He's someone you remember.
Yeah, I think he went off as a rookie or something. All right, we'll come back and talk about Jay Cutler and his career with the Bears, but let's talk the Broncos, their next season. So in the Broncos in 2009, this is Josh McDaniels' first year there. So right after all this is happening, this whole fiasco, they trade Cutler, they get Orton.
Yeah.
They end up going 8-8. They miss the playoffs. Now we're going to go into that offseason, and this is where this trade gets really, really wacky. Okay. 11th overall is the Bears pick, and they trade that pick down with the 49ers. The 49ers have the 13th pick. They trade down, and the 49ers draft Anthony Davis, AD, of the New Orleans Pelicans. Anthony Davis didn't do much in the NFL. Okay. And what did the 49ers, all they gave up to move up those 2 picks in the first round from 13 to 11 was a 4th round pick, 113th overall. That pick ends up getting to the Patriots. Any idea who it is?
Brady. No, it was way after Brady. Gronk? Hernandez?
Aaron Hernandez.
I knew it was one of them.
So that 4th rounder turns into Aaron Hernandez. Then the Broncos, now they have the 13th overall pick. They trade down again with the Eagles. The Eagles draft Brandon Graham, legend. And they go down to 24th overall, which is where the Eagles were picking. And for this, the Eagles, to move up from 24th to 13th, they give up a 3rd rounder, 70th overall, and a 3rd rounder, 87th overall. Those picks turn into Ed Dixon and Eric Decker. So you're wondering, all right, well, one of those picks turned into Ed Dixon, who's a Raven. How'd that happen? We'll get there. But first, now the Broncos are down at 24th, and they decide, you know what? We got to move up. There's someone we need at 22. So they trade back up with the Patriots, and they draft a wide receiver 22nd overall. Do you know who that is?
Thomas?
Demaryius Thomas.
Thomas.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
They give up a 4th rounder, the 4th rounder that they got from the 49ers, to move up from 13 to 11. They repurposed that.
To go from 24 to 22.
Exactly.
Wow.
So now the Patriots end up with Aaron Hernandez, obviously. And now the Patriots take their 24th overall, and they trade down with the Cowboys, who draft another receiver. Who do the Cowboys draft?
Dez.
The Cowboys take Dez Bryant, and the Patriots end up with the 27th pick, where they draft Evan McCourty.
Wow.
So tons of moving pieces here. Oh, and then last but not least, can't forget about this. The Broncos are like, you know what? There's someone we left on the board that we need. And they trade with the Ravens to get back into the first round at 25th overall. Tell me you remember this. Who'd they get?
25th overall. What position?
Quarterback.
Tim Tebow.
They trade back up with the Ravens. Massive reach on Tebow. And they give up a 2nd rounder, 43rd overall. So really the Ravens are kind of moving back from 25 to 43. They give up 70th overall, Ed Dixon, and 114th overall, who turns into Dennis Pitta. Okay.
Tight end?
Dennis Pitta, yeah, tight end. Now, the last piece of this is that the Broncos don't have their pick, right? Because they gave it up.
Right.
They traded it to the Seahawks.
Yes, to get
Alfonso Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Can't miss on Alfonso. Who gets picked with that pick, 14th overall, to the Seattle Seahawks?
What position is that? Is that Marshawn Lynch?
No. It's defensive back.
Sure.
Safety.
Cam Chancellor.
No,
Sherman?
no.
Someone else in the Legion of Boom.
You're only missing one.
Who else is left? Who's that third guy?
Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas.
They end up trading Alfonso Smith for Earl Thomas
That didn't work out.
and kicking off the Legion of Boom. So this
Wow.
Seahawks come away, and it's such a there's so many moving parts to this trade. I put together like a final what everyone gave up and what everyone got back, but it almost doesn't do it justice because when you're looking at it on aggregate, the Broncos didn't give up so many things because they got 2 first round picks back and then they used those first round picks to trade back and back and back and
Right.
acquire more picks and they move things around, whatever. So they actually didn't give up so many things, but they passed on a lot.
And a lot of these picks ended up in good players.
Exactly. So they end up all the Broncos gave up, which is crazy, was Jay Cutler and the 5th round pick, the initial trade. This all stems from there.
So from there, all these players ended up being moved. Wow.
And ultimately, what they get back, and I guess technically their 3rd round pick also, but I think maybe they acquired that from somewhere else, whatever. They ultimately get back Kyle Orton, Robert Ayers, Demarius Thomas, Eric Decker, Tim Tebow, Richard Quinn, and Seth Olson. I don't think the Tebow is included in just the Cutler and Knox thing, but whatever, keep or scratch Tebow. So they get back a lot. The Bears give up Kyle Orton, that 1st round pick that turns into Robert Ayers, a 3rd round pick that turns into Mike Wallace, and a 1st round pick that turns into Anthony Davis. And all they get back is Jay Cutler, Johnny Knox. The Steelers give up scraps and they get Mike Wallace. The 49ers give up Brandon Graham and Aaron Hernandez and they get Anthony Davis. So they get nothing. And then the Eagles end up giving up Des Bryant, Ed Dixon, and Eric Decker, and they get Brandon Graham back. So there's a lot of moving parts.
And then the Pats.
The Pats give up Demarius Thomas, and they get Devin McCourty, Aaron Hernandez,
And
Taylor
Pats.
Price.
Right.
And the Cowboys, I think, are last. They give up Devin McCourty and Taylor Price, and they get Des Bryant. And then the Ravens are trash. The Ravens gave up Tebow, and they got back Ed Dixon, Dennis Pitta, Sergio Kindle.
Sounds like a win to me. Tebow wasn't that good.
Tebow was nothing, yeah.
He was exciting.
Yeah. Okay, so now to jump, that's a lot. Well, we'll have to unpack that at the end. To jump back in, Jay Cutler, 8 seasons for Chicago. Only 2 of them are winning seasons, 51-51 record, 1 playoff appearance where they lose to the Packers in the NFC Championship. He's the all-time Bears passing leader.
Right. So I was about to say, even though only 2 winning seasons, he's their best quarterback ever until maybe now. Like
No, some of their OGs I feel like were better.
the
No?
Bears have had at least in the last 20, 30 years, have had a history of horrible quarterback play. I mean, look at it. He was only 8 years here, and he was the leading all-time passer.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like way back. Who's that guy? Like McMahon? Like problem with one of his eyes or something?
Could be.
I don't know. Didn't they win Super Bowls way back when?
Well, they won a Super Bowl with their defense, the 85 Bears, but it was the best defense.
Right, that's true. Anyways, I mean, they also had Walter Payton, which helps.
That does help.
You know, Jay Cutler doesn't do much. Kyle Orton, this is the best story. Kyle Orton, he starts off 8-7. The next year he goes 3-10. At the end of the season, he's benched for Tebow. As they fire McDaniels, he requests a trade in the offseason. So he doesn't play. Kyle Orton doesn't play out the end of the season. He requests a trade. It falls through, and then he ends up beating Tebow out for the job. So he's the starter going into the season, except he starts off 1-4, gets benched for Tebow again, and
And then Tebow carries them to the playoffs.
that's when we get TebowMania.
That was a fun season.
So the Broncos start off 1-4. Kyle Orton gets benched. They decide there's only one thing to do. We got to turn to Tim Tebow, the legend. Tebow becomes a starter, and it's like one of the weirdest. I mean, you remember, it's one of the weirdest things that we've seen. They're terrible. They're not good. 3 quarters, they play horrible.
But Tebow in the 4th.
And then in the 4th, this guy, Tim Tebow, has biceps the size of gallons of milk. This guy is jacked. He was never meant to be playing quarterback. He can't throw for his life. He's too strong to throw. And
But in the 4th quarter, boy, could he throw.
there was just something about it.
Something about Tim Tebow in 4th quarters.
He ends up going 7-4 as a starter. the wins don't make any sense statistically speaking. In week 7, they were down 15-0 with 3 minutes left. Tebow scores twice, ties the game in those 3 minutes. They go into overtime and win against the Jets, in week 11. Disgusting game. And then Tebow leads a 95-yard touchdown drive in the final minutes. Against the Bears in week 14, they're down 10-0 with under 3 minutes. Tebow scores. They get a game-tying field goal. Bears accidentally run out of bounds, save the clock for Denver, and then they win in overtime. And everyone's like, that's the craziest of them all. And then this is ingrained in my head when watching
80-yard
this live.
touchdown, of course.
Yep. The Denver Broncos, they finish 8-8. They win the AFC West. What a joke. And they're playing the Steelers, the number 1 defense in the NFL, in the first round of the playoffs. And Tebow ends up going for 316 yards. He has his best game as a pro, and they're tied at the end of regulation. They go into overtime, and on the first play of overtime, it's just a little slant. Demaryius Thomas catches
That's legendary.
That is like ingrained in my head. I remember watching it live, just like in shock, because at the time, everyone is like, we're bought in. It was like Linsanity, you know? It was like
100%. And that's what's so crazy is that, like, he would play awful. He wasn't good, but boy, was he good in big moments.
there was something about it. Like, he was able to win. And you're watching on TV, the stadium is shaking. It's one of the greatest things to happen in a playoff game. And then the next week, they fly out to Gillette and get absolutely manhandled by the Patriots.
By a real football team.
By a real football team. They lose 45-10 against the Patriots. And in the offseason, the Colts decide, you know what? That guy, Peyton Manning, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, we'll take our chances. And Peyton and the Broncos are like, you know what? We'll take him. Tebow was cute. We're good. And that was it.
That's right. The Broncos got rid of Peyton. The Colts got rid of Peyton Manning.
Yeah. So the Colts
coming off neck surgery.
Right. Peyton Manning was coming off neck surgery. It was suck for Luck. Andrew Luck was one of these prodigal son type quarterback prospects, and he was. And in the Colts' defense, they probably made the right decision, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
He had the first overall pick. I guess they could have traded it, kept Manning. Manning still had another like 5 or 6 good years in him, and
now 5 or 6. But they needed because part of what made Manning work was that they had a great defense on the Broncos and a good O-line. If Manning had to sit behind that terrible O-line that Luck had to sit behind, he would have died.
That's true. That's a good point. Anyways, they end up taking Luck. They decide, you know what, Peyton, you can move on. I don't even think they traded him. I think he walked.
He was a free agent.
He walked in free agency, which is mind-boggling that I can't imagine something like that happening.
That year, the Peyton Manning injured year, they were awful.
Yeah, they won like 1 game.
That was Curtis Painter and Dan Orlovsky.
They sucked for Luck. They earned him.
Yes, they earned it.
They earned it.
And it's so crazy because the way the year ended, like Tebow, no one really believed Tebow was good, but he was like magical. And then it ends like because of Peyton Manning. Like if Peyton Manning if the Colts don't leave, I'll get rid of him. Maybe Tebow stays and gets another chance.
You think they run it back with him?
I mean, the guy won a playoff game.
Yeah, but he had like an under 50% completion percentage.
He was bad, but he was good when it mattered. It's like it's still unexplainable what he was doing because he stunk. Like you would watch him for 3 quarters and be like, this guy is 3 of 10 right now. Like he's not a quarterback. And then all of a sudden, when it mattered, he would find a way to drive down the field.
Yeah, there was really no statistical explanation for what he was doing. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I cannot. Or if it's been a little bit, just watch some Tebow highlights from TebowMania.
Watch like those 4th quarter highlights from that year.
It's one of the wildest runs we've seen in NFL history.
It was always like for years after that, it was like, oh, Tebow trying to return. Like, and everyone would get so excited because it was Tim Tebow.
Yeah, and then he went to baseball, whatever. He had a long and interesting career in the public spotlight.
I mean, he's also, a national champion in college, a Heisman.
Yeah, that's true.
Gave one of the best speeches of all time.
Yeah.
The one after they lose, no one will work harder and no one will do better than me. I promise. Like, great all-time speech.
Well, he's one of those guys that you love to love. He's just so I don't know. It was so real and authentic, and it was weird. I remember everyone like putting
I
their
was about to say, who didn't do the Tebow after getting a touchdown, doing the little prayer? Yeah, that was like the coolest thing to do.
He loved God. If you just want like some good content in your life, you can watch just Tebow talking to people. Some interviews. He has some good interviews. All right, let's jump back into what everything turned into. So we talked about the Steelers end up getting Mike Wallace. They give up their third rounder. The Broncos gave up their third rounder, Craig Urbick. He didn't make the Steelers active roster, but he ends up going to the Bills. He was an offensive lineman. He played 6 seasons, started some games. The Broncos give up their third rounder, which turns into Mike Wallace. 4 years on the Steelers, 4,000 receiving yards and
He's a good
36
player.
touchdowns. He was a good player. 10 seasons, 8,000 receiving yards,
He was good
57
with big.
touchdowns. He came to the Ravens for a little bit. That was weird. He was a classic Steelers receiver. They keep him for his rookie contract and they get rid of him. The Broncos got back Richard Quinn and Seth Olson. I mean, the picks for them. Neither of them does anything. They're irrelevant. All right. Anthony Davis, we talked about 49ers, not super relevant. Now we have the Eagles. They end up getting Brandon Graham. He's still active. I mean, he came back in the middle of the season, whatever, but he's in his 16th season for the Eagles. He's been a great starter for them. He's only made one Pro Bowl. He has a couple all defensive second teams, but he's third in Eagle sacks all time. He's just been,
Two-time Super Bowl champ.
yeah, he's been a starter for the Eagles for 16 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's anyone you could get that starts for you for that long is a win.
Yeah. Des Bryant, we all know him, ends up on the Cowboys. 8 seasons with them, 3 Pro Bowls, 1 All NFL first team, 7,400 receiving yards. He went on a crazy run. 3 straight seasons with 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Wow.
And then Eric Decker,
Really, all we'll remember him for is what is a catch.
That's true. That was insane. Eric Decker, 4 seasons with the Broncos, 8 total, 1,000-yard, 10+ touchdown seasons with the
How
Broncos.
about his Jets seasons?
He was on the Jets too.
He had a couple of years on the Jets.
He was a good
solid player.
He was a good player. He was a great
He
receiver.
was like a poor man's Julian Edelman.
Yeah. It's interesting, like none of these guys, receivers, it's hard. It's hard to last more than, 8 seasons as a wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. It's not the skill positions, now not long careers.
Yeah. And I think arguably the best player in this was Demaryius Thomas. 9 seasons with the Broncos, 5 straight Pro Bowls, 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, second all time in Broncos receiving yards.
Yeah, wow. I mean, and a Super Bowl champ.
Super Bowl. I mean, he had the benefit of playing with Peyton Manning,
And
which
that year, I mean, Payne's year when, right, the year they won, Payne actually wasn't that good. But the year before that, when Payne's MVP and he throws 50 touchdowns, Demaryius was a big part of that.
yeah, he was awesome. And in those like peak years, like I said, 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons is very impressive.
Very.
We don't see a lot of that.
The only guy I think of is Mike Evans.
Mike Evans.
Does it for longer.
He's never gonna not having 1,000 yards.
This year, it's finally broken.
Yeah, then we have the Patriots, relevant players, Devin McCourty and Aaron Hernandez. Very sad, Aaron Hernandez. Obviously, Devin McCourty turns into one of the best safeties of all time. And the Ravens, they get Ed Dixon.
And by the way, this is something that doesn't get talked enough about with the whole Hernandez thing, is that he was so good.
He was a great athlete.
I remember, I'm a big Jet fan, and I remember his rookie season, no one really knew who he was. Gronk was already a massive name. And I remember against the Jets, Aaron Hernandez got a couple of short passes, and all of a sudden he's juking people left and right and turning a 3-yard catch into like 25 yards. And I remember like, who is this guy? Tight ends aren't shifty. How is there this shifty tight end?
For context, if you're not aware of how good Aaron Hernandez actually was, he was the second tight end, the backup tight end for the Patriots. Backup tight ends usually don't play. They obviously had a lot of 2 tight end sets, but he was the backup tight end. As a rookie, he had 45 catches for 563 yards and 6 touchdowns. His second year, he had 79 catches for 910 yards and 7 touchdowns. And his third season was cut short. He had 51 catches for 483 yards and 5 touchdowns. This guy was a legit player. I mean, it's obviously terrible what happened afterwards, but just from like a raw talent perspective
Supremely talented.
and from a scouting perspective on the Patriots end, great for them. They end up, yeah,
Really did.
they got Devin McCourty and Aaron Hernandez, which is a great haul.
It's interesting just thinking about, like, we talked about this in previous episodes, that a trade isn't a trade unless you draft right with those picks. Like,
Exactly.
it's not a good trade. And here it's so interesting seeing the teams that draft well versus the teams that don't. Like, shocking. The Eagles drafted well. The Patriots drafted well. And, it just you see the great organizations, it comes down to how well you draft and how good you are at scouting.
Yeah, there's 2 things that are really interesting to me about this. One is how well everyone drafted. Like, how many just mega superstars are
Came out of this move,
came
these
out of
trades.
this, like, s branch of Jay Cutler being traded, and then the Broncos end up having their hands on potentially drafting so many stars, which is interesting. And what's also interesting is on draft night, you just think about there's some obsessions with like, I have to trade up to get this guy. And sometimes it really hits. And sometimes it's like, what are you doing? Like the 49ers trade up to draft Anthony Davis, and then he doesn't really do anything. And then the Broncos are like, we have to get back into the first round to draft Tim Tebow. And they draft him, and he has one magical season, but
Worth it.
maybe worth
Great
it.
trade.
Then he's off the team. But then in the same, they also trade up. They got Demaryius Thomas, who they were like, we have to get this guy. And he ends up being awesome. But they gave up the pick that was used for Des Bryant. So it's like, ah,
It's interesting. I mean, you basically, the way it works as a GM is, and the scouting department, all that, is that if you believe in someone, go get them. That's the philosophy a lot of these teams have. And you see, you'll have swings and misses, and you'll have some hits. But
yeah.
but the overall is like, who cares about a third rounder next year or even a first round? Like, if you believe in this guy, go get him.
We'll do grades because, I just live for our messed up grading system. And talk about an impossible trade to grade. There's like 17 trades. We're just going to grade the Bears Broncos.
And I'm gonna give that trade. Who it's I guess I mean, in my head, the Bears won that trade, but barely. Did they even? Because the Broncos got more players, and then they made the playoffs sooner.
Yeah, I have it as a win for the Broncos, honestly.
So then I'm gonna put it at like 3.
Yeah, I think I got it also like maybe a 3-7. I don't know. Nothing too crazy. It's basically just an even trade.
So really, what you enjoyed about this trade is just the branches. That this one little trade turned into like 20 players moving around all throughout the country.
Just
For different
chaos
teams.
and everything that happened because of it, right? Think about like this trade ends up impacting so many parts of the league, right? The Cowboys end up with Dez, the Broncos end up with Tebow, which means they end up with Manning because Tebow stinks. So now they're in the quarterback market. McDaniels is an idiot and trades a first round pick for a second round pick, and that turns into Earl Thomas, and that turns into the Legion of Boom. And there's just don't the Seahawks beat the Broncos in
Yeah.
the
By
Super
the
Bowl?
way, if we're gonna really just talking about the Broncos, I mean, their coach got fired within a year of this trade, so I don't know how much they won either.
Yeah, I mean, that was a disaster, but it ends up that the trade helped. That wasn't because of the
Right.
coach. It was more like in spite of him. I mean, the Broncos lost to the Seahawks in the Super Bowl
Yeah, they got killed.
by the Legion of Boom Seahawks.
Yeah.
So they end up creating their enemy. There's like a villain
It's
arc
true.
here.
Even I mean, that game was never even close, right? It started with a safety. First snap of the game went over
Yeah,
Ian's head, and it
it's a
was never
disaster.
close after that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so interesting how these like small, you think it's just like a trade or a normal trade, and then they trade down 7 times, and all of a sudden we're left with some of our favorite players from the 2010s switching teams.
Right.
We had no idea that any of these players came from picks that were
Right, and
originally
this
traded.
came into effect from a trade years before then. It is interesting, the Bears did this recently where they had a bunch of picks, and then they just kept trading down for more picks. Like, they're just like, "Let's just stockpile as many picks as we can get."
Yeah, I was looking at a couple older drafts, and the Browns are always just trading down, and it's just like you just trade down, and you're just bundling crap together at some
Right,
point.
you need high picks because you need good players. That's why, you write the Eagles GM, Howie Roseman, who's the king, best GM in football. he's constantly trading up and snagging people who fell. So, like, he'll snag someone who should have been top 5 pick, and he'll get them at 18, and he'll trade up and take them, and that's why it's funny, GMs don't wanna pick up his call because they're afraid they're gonna get, like, screwed, you know?
Yeah, you don't wanna be that guy who gave up
Exactly.
Demarius Thomas or Dez Bryant. You know what? The Browns remind me of The Big Short, where it's
They're
all it's just crap bundled together.
they're bundling all this crap, and they're calling it
Right,
A's.
you bundle enough loans together, it's like the Browns trade down, so they end up trading all the way down, so all they have are, like, the entire 3rd round, and it's all just crap.
That's a good example. That's a good analogy right there. That does feel like the Browns, and that does feel like their strategy. Like they're like think they're so smart, like those guys who in The Big Short who are like very cocky about like what they're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alright, I think, we'll leave it here.
Yeah, hopefully you guys were able to follow all the webs of that trade.
Thank you for listening to The Trade Rewind. You can find us on social media at The Trade Rewind on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you enjoy listening to the show, the best thing you can do for us is to leave us a 5-star on Spotify and share the episode.